When the bell rang for first cane, 4 men did not rise from the cutting ground. They were not asleep. Their eyes were open. Across each chest, each throat, each wrist, a bruise the color of a ripe plum, pressed deep, in the shape of something that had no shape. Their lips were gray. Their lanterns had burned down to nothing. And when the overseer turned the first man over, the cut on his arm did not bleed. There was nothing left in him to bleed. The other workers would not touch the bodies. They were already looking up the hill, toward the broken great house, toward the old well, and they were already saying her name. "Good evening, traveler. Come closer to the lamp. Mind the moths. They know there's a flame here, same as you do. Tonight's tale comes from a small island where the old people still throw a pinch of salt across the doorway before they sleep, and where no grandmother will let you whistle at night for fear of what might come looking for you. I did not see these things. I only keep them. They were given to me the way all true stories are given, by someone who swore it happened and never could explain it. So sit. Let me tell you what they tell me. In the islands there is a creature the old folks speak of in a low voice. Even now, they call her the Soucouyant. By day, they say, she is an old woman, the kind you might pass at market, the kind who keeps to herself, who is older than she has any right to be, whose back is straight when it should be bent. You would never know her. That is the whole horror of it. You would never know her. But at night, the Soucouyant does a terrible thing. She goes to a quiet place, a place no one watches, and she peels off her skin. She folds it or hides it or hangs it, like a coat on a nail by the door. And then, freed of her body, she rises into the air as a ball of living fire, ablaze with no wood to feed it. And she flies. She flies looking for the warm and the sleeping, and she presses herself against them, and she drinks, not greedily, a little from this one, a little from that, so that for a long while the village thinks only that people are tired, that people are pale, that something is going around. That is how she lasts so long. That is how she is never caught. But the old people, they knew a way. They said, if you can find where she hides her skin while she is out flying, you have her. Because before the sun comes up, she must climb back in. And so you take coarse salt, and you take hot pepper, and you rub it deep into the empty skin and turn it inside out. And when she returns, exhausted, near dawn, the skin no longer fits. It burns her. It will not take her back. And there she is, caught between worlds when the sun finds her. Neither flame nor woman. Just gone. Remember that, traveler. The salt and the skin. The village in this story remembered it too. The boy's name was Eli, and in the year 1938, he was 11 years old, which on that part of the island meant he was already a working man 6 days out of 7. The estate sat in the lee of a hill on the eastern side, where the cane grew thick and the wind never quite stopped. Down in the valley were the chattel houses and the boiling house and the long sheds. And up the hill, swallowed by bush and wild fig, stood the ruins of the old great house, the planter's house from slavery time, abandoned for 60 years, its roof long fallen, its stone walls black with rain. Below it, half hidden in the elephant grass, was the old well. People said the water in it had gone bad before Eli's grandmother was born, and in those ruins, alone, lived Miss Iyaba. Nobody could tell you exactly when she came. Eli's mother said she had always been there. The old men said she had come from down the islands. Trinidad maybe, or further the small French places, or further still from across the water. She spoke their dialect, but underneath it was another tongue, older, that came out only when she was angry or singing. Her name itself was foreign, Iyaba. The children said it meant Queen Mother in a language nobody on the estate had been taught. She kept to herself. She kept a garden in the ruins that grew when nobody else's did. She knew which bush boiled into which cure, and women crept up the hill to her when the doctor in town wanted money they did not have. But they crept up quietly, and they did not stay long, and they did not look anyone in the eye coming down. She was foreign. She was odd. She kept her own company and feared no one. And she was old. That was the thing they could not forgive. She was older than the oldest man on the estate could remember being a child, and yet she climbed that hill morning and evening with a straight back and a clear eye, and she did not die. People do not love a person for refusing to die. They begin slowly to resent it. It was Eli's job twice a week to carry food up to her. His mother sent it, a little cornmeal, a few yams, a fish when there was fish. She doctored you when you had the fever, his mother said, and we don't forget. So up the hill Eli went, afraid at first. He stopped being afraid the third week, because Miss Iyaba, it turned out, was kind to him. She taught him the names of the night birds. She let him grind the bush in the mortar and told him stories about the island she'd seen, about the sea, about a war long ago where men in chains had thrown themselves into the water rather than land. She had a low laugh and steady hands, and she never once treated him like a child too small to understand a true thing. Eli came to love the old woman by the well. Remember that. It matters to how this ends. That season, the estate worked the night gang hard. When the cane is ready, it must be cut and crushed before it sours. And so men worked by lantern through the dark, cutting in the cool, hauling to the boiling house where the great coppers steamed all night. It was brutal work. Men were always tired. Men were always thin. So no one thought much at first when Bramble, a big, strong cutter, started coming up slow, pale under his dark skin, short of breath. Bruises on his arms he couldn't account for. "I must have knocked it," he said. Then another man, Cuffy, the same, then a third. Tiredness that sleep didn't mend, a greyness about the lips, and those bruises, strange, soft, deep bruises, like something heavy had leaned on them in the night and left its weight behind. The estate doctor came twice and called it a wasting of the blood. He'd seen it before in the cane country, he said. Bad diet, bad water. Men worked past the edge of what a body can give. It moves through a gang like a rumor, he said. Keep them fed, keep them rested. Then he took his fee and his motorcar back to town and did not come again. But the men did not believe in a wasting of the blood. The men had been working cane their whole lives, and so had their fathers, and this had never moved through a gang before. They believed in what they saw, and what they saw was a light. It started as one man's story. Bramble, on the night shift, swore he'd seen it, out past the cane, up toward the ruins, near the old well. A ball of fire, rising, not a lantern, not a fire anyone had lit. Floating, he said, hanging in the air a moment, then gone over the dark fields, low and fast like something hunting. The next week, 2 more men said the same, then 4. A ball of fire by the well, on the nights when men woke grey and bruised. And by then, of course, everyone on the estate knew who lived by the well. Eli heard it all in the valley, the muttering, the looking up the hill. He didn't believe it. He couldn't believe it. He had ground bush in that woman's mortar. She had told him the names of the night birds, but he had also once, going up at dusk with the food, seen something he had not told anyone. He had seen Miss Iyaba standing at the lip of the old well in the last red light, very still, with her arms a little out from her sides, and for just a moment in the dusk it had looked as though the light was coming from her and not falling on her. He had blinked, and it was only an old woman by a well. He told himself it was only an old woman by a well. He kept telling himself that for a long time. A man died. Not weakened, died. Old Cuffy, found cold in his bed, grey to the lips, a bruise spread across his chest like a hand pressed flat. The estate doctor did not come back to look, but the Oberman from 2 estates over did, and he walked the chattel houses with a candle, and he did not say wasting of the blood. He said another word, and the word ran through the valley faster than any fever. Soucouyant. After that, the estate changed. Mothers turned their children's clothes inside out at night, the old protection. Doorways got their pinch of salt and their cross of ash. Nobody went out after dark, and the night gang nearly stopped. Men would rather lose the wage than cut cane under that hill in the dark. And every grey morning, every soft bruise, every man who came up tired now had one cause, and one cause only. Her, the old woman, the foreign one, the one too spry for her years, the one by the well where the fire was seen to rise. Eli watched it turn. He watched neighbours who had crept up that hill for her cures now spit when her name was said. He watched his own mother go quiet and stop sending the food. "Don't go up there no more," she told him. "You hear me, Eli? Don't." But he went. He went because he could not square it. He went and he watched her, secretly now, half ashamed, looking for the monster the others swore she was. And what he saw was an old woman growing thinner and more tired herself, drawing her shawl close, who had heard every word the valley said about her, and who carried it like a stone. One evening she caught him watching from the bush, and she did not scold him. She only said, very tired, "You come to see do I peel, child?" And when he couldn't answer, she laughed that low laugh, but there was no joy in it now. "Old, foreign, won't dead when they want me to. That's all the crime there is. That's always been the only crime." And she turned back to her garden. He almost believed her completely. Almost, except that twice more that month, on the bad nights, Eli woke to a red light moving across the inside of his shutters. And when he ran to the window, there was something low over the cane, going fast, glowing, gone before he could be sure it was anything at all. A torch, maybe, a trick of a dreaming eye, the estate's last brave men out with lanterns, or he never finished the oar. He was 11, and he loved her, and he did not let himself finish it. But the valley had finished it long ago. It was a man named Bramble, the first to take sick, the first to see the fire, who finally said the old words aloud in the rum shop to a room full of frightened and grieving men. The salt and the skin. Everyone knew the test. I told it to you not half an hour ago, and they had all heard it as children too. Find where she hides her skin while she's out in the night as flame. Salt it, pepper it, turn it, and let the sun do the rest. They went up the hill the night of the next dark moon, a dozen men and more behind them with torches and cutlasses and a sack of coarse salt and ground pepper. They went up while the old woman was, they believed, out flying. They went up to find her skin. Eli ran ahead of them through the cane in the dark. He had to. He had to warn her, or save her, or only be there. He didn't know which. He went up the back way, the way she'd shown him, and he came to the ruins ahead of the torches. And this is what the boy saw. This is all the boy ever truly saw. And you must take it exactly as he gave it, no more and no less. The ruins were empty. Miss Iyaba was not there. By the old well, on the cool stone, something lay folded. In the dark, Eli could not tell what. It might have been a shawl, her grey shawl, the one she drew close when the night came on. It might have been an old dried hide hung to cure. It might have been, God help him, exactly what the men had come to find, soft and empty and waiting to be climbed back into. He reached for it, and the torches came over the rise behind him, throwing his shadow long and wild across the stones. And Bramble was shouting, and the men were on it before Eli could touch it, pouring the salt, grinding in the pepper, turning the thing inside out and stamping it into the dirt and calling on God. And Eli swore to this until the day he himself was old. Then the fire came. It came up out of the night beyond the well, low and fast and red, the way it always came. It rose, it hung in the air over the men, and they screamed and fell back and swung their cutlasses at the empty air. It seemed, Eli said, to try for the salted skin on the ground, again and again, like a moth at glass that cannot understand the glass, and it could not reach it. And the first grey of dawn came up behind the hill, and the fire fell. It fell into the bush past the well, and there was a sound. Eli could never name the sound. And then there was nothing. No fire, no flame. Just the men panting, and the salt scattered, and the cold sky going pale. They found Miss Iyaba at the bottom of the slope past the well when the sun came full up. She was dead. Of that there was no question, whether she had been struck. There were cutlasses out and frightened men, and a dozen of them, or whether she had simply run from the torches in the dark and fallen on the rocks. An old woman fleeing a mob at last, or whether something else entirely had come down out of the air there and not got up again. No two men in that valley ever told it the same way. And the men, you understand, needed it to be the third thing. They had killed her one way or another, by cutlass or by fear, and the only thing that could make them clean again was for her to have been the monster all along. So that is what they said. That is what the valley says to this day. But Eli was there. Eli had run ahead. And the one thing Eli could never make fit, the splinter that stayed under his skin his whole long life, was this. He had reached the folded thing by the well before the fire came. He had nearly had his hand on it. And in that first instant, before the torches, before the salt, in the grey light, by his own eyes, he could not for the life of him say whether the thing folded on the stone was a sloughed and empty skin, or only an old woman's shawl, left behind by a frightened woman who had run into the dark to die. So, what was she? The doctor had his answer, and it was a good one, and it cost nothing to believe except the trouble of believing it. A wasting of the blood. Men worked half to death in the dark, on bad food and bad water, their bodies failing the way bodies fail, pale and bruised where they fell, and at last grey and still. It moves through a gang like a rumour, he said, and rumour, traveller, is the truest word in the whole tale, because here is the other answer, and it costs everything. There was an old woman. She was foreign, in a place that trusted nothing foreign. She was strange, and kept her own company, and feared the men who should have frightened her, and would not. And worst of all, she would not die on schedule. She had outlived everyone's patience. And when a sickness came that nobody could explain and nobody could cure, the valley did what frightened people have always done. They found the one among them who was already half a stranger, and they made her carry the whole weight of it. They made her the door that all their fear could walk through. They did not need her to be a monster. They needed somewhere to put the dread. And she was standing right there, alone, by the well, too old and too odd and too unafraid. So the fire they saw rise in the dark, was it her shedding her woman's skin, or was it only torchlight on the cane, and the human mind, which would so much rather be hunted by a witch than abandoned by its god to a sickness with no name? A boy loved her. The boy was the only one who climbed that hill to bring her bread and to learn the names of the night birds, and the boy who loved her, who of all of them most wanted her to be only an old woman. The boy is the one who could never quite swear that she was. That is the cruelty of this tale, not that the village killed her. Villages have killed strangers since the world was cane and salt. The cruelty is that they left even her one friend unable to mourn her cleanly. They poisoned the grief. Because somewhere in the firelight, for one instant, Eli saw something he could not explain, and an unexplained thing, traveler, is a splinter that works its way in deeper the longer you live. He grew old himself, that boy, straight-backed, they say, into his great age. People began to remark how spry he was for his years. People began in time to wonder about him. I leave it to you. I always leave it to you. They filled in the old well after that year. They salted the ground where the great house stood, and they planted nothing there, and the bush took it back. But on the dark moon nights, the old ones on that hill still turn their children's clothes inside out before bed, just in case she didn't burn, just in case she was never there at all. And the thing they should have feared was only one another. Remember, traveler, not every story from these islands is meant to be forgotten. Some are warnings. Until next time, keep your lantern lit.